Coming up, the Ministry of Environment partnering with the private sector to help you save on your energy bill. Kids taking a keen interest in energy conservation. Cruise ship arrivals still at an enviable position. So what are industry players doing to keep the Bahamas on top? We take a look. We continue our look at the men who served this country many decades ago during World War II. Get ready. It's Tuesday, November 8th. The Bahamas Tonight starts right now.
Covering the islands of the Bahamas, ZNS Network presents The Bahamas Tonight.
Great to have you along this Tuesday. I'm Shanique Miller. This is the Bahamas Tonight National Report. Tonight, the Ministry of Health is confirming a case of TB at the detention center, but could there be cholera on the compound as well? Reports of TB and cholera coming out of the detention center late this afternoon. Reportedly, an ambulance was called to the center to transport one of the foreign nationals to the Princess Margaret Hospital. Since the story broke, we've been able to confirm that there is a case of tuberculosis and the detainee is being treated. Well, tonight we're joined by the Deputy Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Delon Brennan from the Ministry of Health. Dr. Brennan, first of all, good evening and thanks for being here. What can you tell us about the condition of the detainee tonight, and is it more than one person involved?
Good evening, Shanique. There is one person that is involved in the tuberculosis case. It is a suspected case of tuberculosis because the patient during a routine medical evaluation was found to have symptoms that would suggest it was tuberculosis. So that person was then referred for further medical treatment.
Do you know if he or she came into contact with anyone else?
This was a recent detainee, so as far as we know, there was no other contact or close contacts with other persons at the detention center.
Now, what is the situation at the detention center? We were, of course, told this afternoon that the officials there suspect 3 cases of cholera. Can you confirm this?
No, there are no confirmed cases of cholera at the detention center. We did routine medical evaluations of the persons at the detention center. No one was presenting with symptoms such as explosive diarrhea or lots of dehydration that would suggest that they were having symptoms of cholera. So we did have the suspected tuberculosis case, but there were no suspected cases of cholera.
Now, I know the Ministry of Health is taking cholera very seriously as we continue to have huge amounts of illegal immigrants come into our shores. Today, the Tribune's lead story says outbreak of cholera a real possibility. Now, this is not such a far-fetched idea, is it?
It's not a far-fetched idea when you consider that cholera has a possibility of being introduced into the Bahamian population because there are people traveling from endemic areas coming to our shores. However, it is less of a possibility for our usual population because most of us are in situations where we have a safe water supply. The city water supply is a very safe water supply, and so because it is usually propagated through populations through contaminated water supplies or food supplies, the Bahamian public in general is fairly safe from that happening. However, we do know that we have pockets of our population that don't necessarily have access to as safe a water supply as we would like them to, either by choice or by situation, and those are the people we really have to worry about protecting.
And with that in mind, what are the measures in place or prevention measures in place if this were to become a real concern?
What we are doing is we have prepared a place, we have a clinic or a healthcare facility that is designated as our area to treat patients who need to both be isolated and treated for cholera. So they would be transported to that facility, they would then be treated there, and hopefully that would help to isolate it from being introduced into our regular population. We also have medications on board in order to treat people if that was to become something that we needed to do. Most people who have cholera actually don't necessarily need treatment other than to have their fluid rehydration or their fluid hydration status made sure that we pay attention to that. There are some people who will end up needing antibiotics for it, but the general population doesn't require prophylaxis or treating it before they're exposed or once they're able to have access to clean water and a safe food supply. Most of our population is actually protected.
Good deal. So, of course, again, tonight, no cases of cholera at the detention center, and the one individual with TB or suspected TB is being given medical attention.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much. Deputy Chief Medical Officer at the Ministry of Health, Dr. Delon Brennan, joining us here live this evening on the Bahamas Tonight. Well, we've been telling you all week long that energy efficiency can really save you some big bucks. But in order for those savings to trickle down, we need additional knowledge. Tonight, Altavi's Munnings has more from the Environment Minister.
Nowadays, energy costs are surely putting a dent in everyone's budget. But the focus of National Energy Awareness Week is to decrease our carbon footprint on the way we live here in the Bahamas. And believe it or not, there are many ways to do this. Here's how Environment Minister Earl DeVoe believes the Bahamas Electricity Corporation can lessen costs to the consumer.
BEC must rebalance its energy production system more to Clifton Pier and less to Blue Hills, where we have slower burning diesels that are capable of producing electricity at a cheaper price.
Government officials are consulting architects, engineers, and even interior designers who search for energy-efficient initiatives to do their job. A homeowner would be advised to purchase energy-efficient hot water heaters and air conditioning units, as they tend to soak up the most power. Minister DeVoe agrees.
If you're already living in a place, then change your light bulbs. Buy fans if you're using air condition so that could help circulate the air. Reduce the temperature on the air condition 1 or 2 degrees and use circulating fans to blow the cooler air around. If you're cooking, make sure that the pan you're using fits over the fire that you've built. Because if the fire is coming outside of the pan, then you're wasting heat.
Besides electricity, though, many energy-savvy residents utilize solar power. The Environment Minister contends it's the secret to significant energy savings.
If I put this widget on my roof and all these connectors and adapters in my house, who's going to maintain them? And that's one of the reasons I believe the private sector has such a significant role to play. The regulatory environment for encouraging the use of these things so that they become user-friendly to the people is one of the big challenges that we will have to overcome. But the payoff is just so big.
Now, if you want to monitor the energy in your home, stakeholders recommend conducting an energy audit that can be performed by officials of the Bahamas Electricity Corporation or any major power supplier. Altavi's Munnings, ZNS News.
Environmental officials are counting the cost of electricity consumption with the view of reducing it by the millions. They say it can be done in a big way, residentially and commercially, to the tune of tens of millions of dollars. Keishla Adderley has more.
An audit of local hotels reveals that exorbitant energy consumption can be slashed to the tune of $50 million annually, provided that a series of cost-cutting measures are undertaken. And households, the audit reveals, aren't far behind in high-energy spending, which officials say can be cut by as much as $90 million. Here's how things stand.
In what is considered a small home, the average inhabitant, for every inhabitant, they consume about 932 kilowatt hours per year. That's equivalent to $317 or $26 per month. But in what they consider the normal home, they consume 1,843 kilowatt hours per year, which is significantly more, which is about $627 per year or $52 per month. This is per inhabitant.
As BEC's supply challenges peaked this summer, commercial interests were asked to utilize their own power supplies to ease the burden on deficient equipment. With electricity demand to grow by 8% annually over the next 5 years, the lingering problem has piqued interest in private electricity generation. Here's what the government is deliberating over in relation to that.
BEC's primary concern is the integrity of their system, but also what price do we pay for self-provided power from businesses, private businesses and companies, because BEC has to invest for 24/7 reliability, and the individual is essentially saying to BEC, I have extra power. When I have it, I want to sell it to you. There's a discount mechanism used to price that kind of power.
And alternative energy sources besides the obvious solar are also being considered as a new energy policy is crafted.
There is good potential for wind energy in the Bahamas. And so we do have 3 large sources of renewable supply that's readily available that we can draw on.
The third is waste energy. Meantime, as future national plans are made, you can start the turnaround by making energy awareness a personal priority. Keishla Adderley, ZNS News.
As Energy Week continues, officials from the Bahamas Electricity Corporation are sharing the important message of energy conservation with the youngest members of the community. Today, they stopped at the Palmdale Primary School. Janaea Noel was there.
The Bahamas among countries around the world focusing on new methods to produce energy. The goal is to lessen the impact on the environment. BEC's engineer Robert Hall spreading the message to students at the Palmdale Primary School today.
We think that the students are a catalyst of change, and so we expect that students, as they learn to get the message, they will help to pass it on to the parents as well as the community. So we're using students to educate them, to make them agents of change. And the second reason is that we recognize that in order to secure our energy future, we have to begin to encourage our students to think energy even at a young age.
Hall says that while small steps to reduce energy is important, more can be done on a larger scale.
The public will be aware that the cost of energy itself has escalated over the years, and so the way in which we used energy when it was not as expensive was a bit wasteful. And so what we're focusing now is on more efficient ways of spending and using energy to get the same benefit. So we're not saying that we want people to be hot or to be without electricity, but we want people to get the same benefit by using less energy.
According to the BEC engineer, if students change their energy consumption habits, in the long run, the benefits can amount to huge savings. To further reduce energy, BEC's general manager Kevin Basin says the company is also contemplating small-scale generation that would connect with its BEC's grid.
That would be a situation whereby you have the renewable directly connected into the grid, and the monies that the utility would pay to the customer would be at the same rate as what the customer would pay to the utility. So in other words, it's just a simple offsetting. If that was done, then for those customers that can in fact afford renewable systems, they would not be paying anything in terms of the other costs associated with the production of electricity, in terms of the cables, in terms of the poles, in terms of the generator, in terms of the standby capacity.
As Energy Week continues, school students will be visiting the BEC plants here at Blue Hills and at Clifton Pier to learn how the company is finding more ways to become energy efficient. Janae and Noel, ZNS News.
A car overturns on the Cable Beach Strip this afternoon just opposite the Cable Beach Plaza. The details were sketchy up to airtime, but eyewitnesses say the accident caused quite a scare as scores gathered to see if the driver was hurt. When our cameras arrived, a tow truck was moving the car from the scene. No word on the condition of the victim. A would-be robber was shot by police and is now hospitalized in stable condition. Police tell us they received information that the 22-year-old was breaking into an apartment on Deliverance Way that's just off East Street. When officers arrived on the scene, the suspect had a knife and chisel in his possession and reportedly attacked the officers. The incident took place after 11 o'clock today. When it comes to cruise passengers, the Bahamas is still in a league of its own. So what's to keep us there? We take a look coming up.
Commonwealth Bank, leader in personal banking services.
Mi casa es su casa, man. And see this right here? Full plasma.
So you're sitting on the couch one day with your friend, but what's this? And there goes the electricity, Jeff.
Come on.
Oh, what you doing, Jeff, old boy? See what he doing right here? That driving up cost for all the BC's customers. I mean, it's high electricity cost for me, high electricity cost for you.
So? I don't care. She ain't my problem no more, old boy.
You see, Jeff hasn't yet realized that this kind of activity is quite illegal. So fellas like him